It's happening! Over the last few weeks, I've been making some changes to my bike setup to get it ready for the season, and it's been going okay.
Let me just, what?
Where?
Oh, I get it.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Okay. Things are actually shaping up really nicely. I've made some changes, both big and small, and I thought today I would walk you through some of those changes. So let's dig in. The first thing was to reset my tubeless. I made a whole video about why I ride tubeless when I bike tour, and I'll leave a link to that below. But I try to reset my tubeless once a year, like a full take the tires off, clean out all the old sealant, check the tape to make sure it's okay, and check the valves to make sure they're okay. And then between that, I just do kind of top-ups on sealant as needed. But I really try to get the gunk out like once a year, and I was due for a full reset. So I just finished that a couple weeks ago. I didn't film it, but I did film my last reset, which I'll put here. I did need to replace the tape on my rear wheel. With my front wheel, I put the tire on backwards, as in it's supposed to roll one way for optimal rolling resistance, and I installed it the other way. I did feel quite silly about this, but the more I told people how silly I felt about it, everyone that had done it themselves said they'd also made that mistake. So I guess I'm not alone. I will need to turn that tire around just to kind of help me roll better, but the bike is rolling, and that's what we're here for. I also did a full clean of the bike. I feel like it's already dirty, but that's riding, you know? But I do try to clean the bike every time I come back from a big tour, which my last big trip was last spring and early summer. So I did clean it then, and then I did kind of a deeper clean, taking, you know, the wheels off, kind of getting into more of the nitty gritty. And then also just checking brake wear and cable wear and chain wear. And it's looking pretty good. Those are some of the more general maintenance things, but now let me tell you about some of the bigger changes. First up, we are shifting more weight to the front of the bike. When I first started bike touring, I was so scared to have weight on the front of the bike. So I had most of my weight on the back in huge panniers. And that got me started, but I have found that spreading out the weight more helps me feel more balanced. And my first step into that world was getting Ortlieb fork packs on the front. I got their 4.1 liter fork packs, and I did like them. They were a good addition to my setup. But where I found they were limiting is the fact that they can only carry 3 kilograms per bag. And I'm quite sure that's regardless of whether it's the 4.1 liter or the 5.8 liter. So I wasn't going to be able to carry any more weight in them, even if I got the bigger bag. On top of that, they took up all the real estate on my fork. So they mounted to the side, which then meant that all these cool eyelets that I have, I couldn't use. So that sent me down a research rabbit hole, and I have a couple friends who have really liked their Old Man Mountain gear. And so I started researching more about Old Man Mountain. They're a company out of Bend, Oregon. And for full transparency, they did send me these racks and bags to try, but I'm under no obligation to say anything about them. So I'm just gonna give you my reasoning for why I picked them and my experiences so far. Also, if you are interested in getting anything from them, they did give me a 10% off discount code for you, which I will leave below. What drew me to Old Man Mountain's racks is that I feel like they try to make them really durable and adaptable. So they have a lifetime warranty, and they also try to make them work with a lot of different setups. Let me show you something. They sent me these fit kits. So they can mount to the axle and a lot of different situations. I'm currently trying not to mount them to the axle because of my Pitlock skewers, which I will tell you more about in just a bit, but they do have the optional fit kits. And then the Elkhorn rack, which I picked for the front of my bike, has mounts on the rack, which means I can mount bags to the front rack and then have these eyelets available, hopefully, for carrying maybe water. I also must say that I found their support incredibly helpful because, as you know, I'm an anxious girly and I get really anxious about like making sure that I set things up right. And they were super helpful about helping me figure out which eyelets to use and all of that. I might move this rack around to a different eyelet depending on whether I want to prioritize like access to these eyelets or carrying stuff up here. But I feel like there are a lot of options and they've been really helpful and really quick with their answers, which means a lot to me. Customer service means a lot to me. So that's the front rack. And then the bags are their hemlock bags with flip cages. So they're really easy to put on and off, and they carry 7 liters in each bag and up to 9.9 pounds on each cage. So that's math. 19.8 pounds? Almost 20 pounds. It's a lot of pounds. Or 4.5 kilograms each, which is 9 kilograms. So I'm gaining the ability to carry a lot more in the front, which I'm really excited about. And I still have to see how that feels because I've carried some weight in the front, but this is gonna be significantly more. So that is all I have to say about the front. Let's turn to the rear of the bike, where I have installed their divide rack. My reason for replacing my rear rack, I previously had the Axiom Streamliner, which served me very well. It can carry a ton of weight, but the design of it is such that it kind of swoops back and means that like the weight is a little further back, which makes the rear of my bike like a little more swayy. I like to blame it on the bike and not the rider, personally. But no, I've heard that's a legitimate thing. And also the rear stays. Are these the stays? Are you call these posts? I should know this. These things were coming too close to the tire, which was fine generally, but if I went through any kind of like deep mud, it meant that like all that mud was getting like gunked up between the posts and the tire. And it also meant if I ever wanted to install fenders, I would not be able to with that rack. So I was excited to move over to this rack. I also like that it's modifiable height-wise in case I ever switched the wheels on this bike or moved it over to another bike. It feels very transferable. And the other reason I chose it is that my old Axiom rack, the bars that the bags mount onto are at the same level as the... Words are not my forte today. What's this? Like the platform. So the bars on the platform are all in line, which means that if I have, for instance, my tent strapped onto the platform and I want to just take one bag off, often I have to disassemble everything and it's quite annoying. Here, the bars are lower, which means that ideally, if I want to just take one penny off or both pennies off and leave, for instance, my tent strapped to the platform of the rack, I should be able to do that. So that's a nice little perk. And then I am trying out their Ponderosa panniers. And the reason that I like these and was drawn to these is that my Ortlieb back roller classics, so that's 40 liters, which has been amazing as I kind of figure out what I want to carry. You know, having that much space has been really nice. And I like with the Ortliebs, their quick release system is really easy. So it's very easy to take them on and off, which is definitely a perk in some ways. I found that the panniers on off-road will kind of like jostle and squeak. The more I've gone on rougher terrain and more off-road routes, which is what I've been really craving, the more that I get to these beautiful, serene places, and all I can hear is so Old Man Mountain, one of their focuses is on making bags that are quiet. And so they use, I can't even think, I'm losing all my words today. Velcro. They use Velcro as their securing mechanism. And my one little hesitancy with it was, because the Ortliebs are so easy to take on and off, I was like, is it gonna be a nuisance? Like, I don't wanna be finagling with my bags, but I found it quite easy. It does take an extra few seconds, little bit of time compared to the Ortliebs, but my feeling is I'd rather spend a tiny bit of extra time securing my panniers and then have a whole day of quiet riding. TBD. This is all still theory. I have to get everything out and test ride it, but that's why I was drawn to these. The only downside with the Ponderosas so far for me is that when I go on big trips, I like to bring my laptop so that I can edit and make videos for you guys as I go.
It's like almost, you know, like, okay, I always try to get 3 rolls. 1, 2, 3. Okay. And then if I fold them down, oh, that's a reach. That's a reach.
These panniers, which are 13 liters each, so 26 liters total, just the shape of them doesn't allow me to put my laptop in there. So I'm not too fussed about it right now because I think for this spring and summer, I'm gonna be doing more local trips where I don't need to bring my laptop and actually prefer to just have smaller panniers because I'm carrying less weight. I think it's gonna be a perfect opportunity to use them, and then I'll decide from there what I wanna do in terms of trying to bring a laptop with me on bigger trips. Is there anything else I needed to tell you about? Oh, my Pitlock skewers. Okay, friends, have any of you used Pitlock skewers? I have nice wheels on this bike and I don't want to get them stolen. I decided to invest in Pitlock skewers, which have basically like almost a personalized key. At least like there's like thousands of keys. So the idea is that it's going to be very hard for somebody to have your key for your unique bike. Let me show you what one looks like. There's an individualized shape in here that goes into your axle in order to lock or unlock it. So my wheels are naturally quick release, and there is the option of switching to an axle that just has, like you would need an Allen key, like an Allen wrench. Or there's like simple 5-sided keys that are easy to come by. And in a lot of situations, I probably would feel comfortable enough with one of those. But because, you know, it's my baby, and I don't want to get a wheel stolen, so I invested in these Pitlock skewers. I like them for the peace of mind of not worrying about my wheels getting stolen, but I find them a little finicky to tighten appropriately because they say to tighten them to 10 Newton meters, which is kind of hard to do in the field in the sense that like I don't have a torque wrench. Maybe I should bring one, but that just feels like overkill. I don't want to not tighten them enough because then a wheel could fall off and that's terrifying. Or if it's over tightened, as I think it was the last time it was put on, is the washer inside can break. And so I just replaced one of the washers and I will now carry spare washers moving forward. But yeah, I'm trying to figure out how I feel about the Pitlock skewers. I really like having a secure mechanism for keeping my wheels safe, but I'm just navigating the finickiness of them. So if you have used Pitlock skewers or have any tips on how to kind of like get that perfect secureness, I am all ears. Now, still to be done to my bike, other than turning my tire around, I definitely want to get some feed bags for snacks and water up here. And I still am, it's a work in progress making this a more useful space, I'm thinking either getting a frame bag or potentially even just like a wider cage here so that I could maybe carry like a Nalgene bottle or just like a bit more water there. And then keep this as like a regular water bottle because this is the one I use to drink out of. But other than that, and even with that, my bike feels like it's in a good position to start riding. I'm just continuously learning about, you know, the style of riding that I like to do and I want to do and what gear will make that a little bit easier. So I'm really excited to get out there. Hopefully my next video will be out on the bike. So see you in the next one.